Razabani for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to have with me on Zoom today, once again this week, Mr. Dave Coldwell. Dave, firstly, how are we doing?
I'm very good. I'm very good, thank you. I'm tired like everybody else, but I don't bitch about it like you.
There's my headline for the title. Dave, gonna jump straight into it. A great event last night. We'll come to all the kind of the details shortly, but to see 73,000 people in the stadium, damn, that felt good.
Brilliant, wasn't it? And the noise that it made, the atmosphere was wicked. I loved it. Do you know what? I just cannot, I can't wait to have that back in the UK and the fans there, whether it's 1,000 people in or 20,000 people in. I just can't wait to have that atmosphere of the fans. It's sports about, you know, we need fans at sports, whether it's boxing, football, whatever. And that showed that last night. We've missed that. You know, we've had some great fights behind closed doors, but can you imagine them with crowds? You know, can you imagine them? They'd have been spectacular. And last night we saw that. Last night it's great to see.
Dave, obviously, Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders, built up to be obviously the big unification clash. Mm-hmm. Canelo generally does start slow in most of his fights. He likes to take that first round to kind of work out what his opponent's trying to do. But it seemed like from round 2, 3, 4 onwards, he was kind of the more busier fighter, which is not normally the case. Do you think Billy started a little bit slower than normal?
No, I think, listen, round 1, I just thought Canelo's defense was brilliant. It took everything away from Billy in round 1. Billy was throwing a lot of punches in round 1, but they were all missing just by a centimetre, just by fractions. And Canelo just missing, riding, using that torso movement, catching the shots as well, and walking forward at the same time, putting Billy under that immense pressure straight away. And what that does is it stops you from wanting to throw punches because you don't believe in your punches anymore. You don't believe that you can land anymore. And, you know, it's part of Canelo's process. It's not a 6-round fight. It's not, you know, this is the thing when a lot of very good fighters step up to elite level. You know, I find that I had it with Bellew, with Usyk. He's having to work very, very hard to stay in the fight and to take away things from them and to try and land shots on them, you know, in our case, in Usyk, you know, and he's doing well for the first half of the fight. And you think, yeah, he's doing well. He's in the fight. Luke Campbell against Lomachenko, you know, even like Zab Judas against Mayweather, you know, for the first half of the fight, these are close fights, the competitive fights. And Billy was the same with Canelo. A lot of people think, you know, had it very, very close. And I didn't have him winning it, but he was competitive in the fight. But these guys, the things that they're doing in the early rounds take effect as the rounds go on. And then in the last half, last quarter, last third of the fights, then you see that difference in class. Then you see the levels pan out. And, you know, and it doesn't matter that they lost a few rounds. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, they won the fight. And ultimately, although you did well and you won some rounds and you were competitive, ultimately you didn't win the fight.
That's interesting to see that. I saw a tweet from Gabriel Rosado where he said, and I don't know if you agree with this, he said, let's put things into perspective. Rounds that were close wasn't because they were competitive. It was more of Canelo setting Saunders up. It's a 12-round fight. You can't put your foot on the gas every round. Sometimes you have to cruise to find your openings. Canelo made it look easy.
Yeah. Elite level fighters have the total confidence in what they're going to do, that it's going to work down the stretch. If that's their plan, that's going to work. And, you know, we saw it with Canelo with Kovalev. You know, Kovalev, look, he was outworking him and it was busy, but he was busy doing nothing. And that's what I feel a lot of Billy's work was last night. It was having to work. He was having to work hard to keep Canelo off him. And just because Canelo's not firing as many shots at him doesn't mean that there's panic buttons being pressed all over in Canelo's head and in his corner. You know, they knew what they were going to do down the stretch. And you know, when Canelo goes to work, he goes to work with bad intentions. The only thing that for me that I kind of thought, I think Canelo had a good round where he got to Billy's body quite a lot, and then he was just for a couple of rounds he was just loading up on single shots, and I just thought, oh, okay, that might play into Billy's hands a little bit, where Billy could be outworking him, and if Canelo's only landing one shot at a time, if he doesn't do the damage with that one shot, then you can, you could get nicked, sort of thing. But the one shot at a time worked, because the one shot that landed with that uppercut did all the damage that it needs to do.
What was the reaction? Obviously, I think it was round 9, beginning of round 9. Round 9 didn't even start, but Mark Tibbs called the fight off. Obviously, we didn't know at the time what had happened, but what was your instant reaction when you saw that?
Well, when I watched that round, when the round was happening, it looked like the wheels were coming off. It was part of what I thought before the fight was that Billy was going to be in it. Halfway stage, Billy might be winning the fight, or might appear to be winning the fight. But I felt that as the rounds went on, then the pressure would tell you to slow down. When Billy starts getting tired, he starts getting ragged. There's more gaps that start appearing. And that round, he took a lot of punishment. It was a very, very tough round, a lot of punishment there. And they're not just little shots, they're hurtful shots. And so the writing was kind of on the wall. And I thought the next round was going to be torrid. From there on in, it was just going to be torrid for him. And it was a case of how much it was going to be able to take. But he's gone back to corner, and coach's perspective is when your fighter's not really got anything left, and if he's got an injury, there's a difference between soft tissue swelling up and the bone where you look at it, and if you think there's an indentation, if you look at it, you think that there's a fracture there or something like that with the eye socket, with the orbital bone, you don't fuck about with that. A swelling, they get an end swell on and try and keep it down as much as they can, and you go as long as you can. But if you think there's some sort of damage to the structure and to the bone, then it's your job to call the fight, and that's what Mark Tibbs did. Mark Tibbs probably knew that what was going to happen then was Billy was just going to go out and just get worked over, and he's got one eye. If he can't see out of the eye because of the damage to it, then it's fucked. Why are you going to do that? When it's, unless you're throwing a towel in, unless it's at that point where you think, oh shit. During that 3 minutes, the fighter's making the decision whether he can hang in there or not. When you get that 1 minute with the corner, you've got to make that decision whether you're letting your man go out or not. And Mark Tibbs, fair play, respect to him, because it was a big decision for him, because he knew the shit that they were going to get. He knew the shit they were going to get. But Mark took that decision, and that is looking after your fighter. That is being responsible for your fighter. I don't want my son to box, but if my son was going to box, I would rather my son be in a corner with a man that I know would pull him out before he gets hurt than talk about how brave he were after he got hurt. And ultimately it's all right for us as fans. Oh, fucking hell, should have gone another round. It's all right for us saying that, but boxing lasts until fighters are mid-30s, late 30s, if they can't go on too long. Then they've got the rest of their lives to live. So it's once a fighter walks away, there's some forgotten, and people go on to everybody else. Whether they're supporting or hating, they go on to everybody else. Forget about that, man. They've got their lives to live. So whatever decision a fighter and his corner team make, that's the right decision for them.
Mark did emphasize that it was his leading eye. Obviously, it was his right eye.
Yeah,
as a
southpaw. Yeah.
But Dave, if it wasn't his leading eye, from a coach perspective, does it bring a different angle and perspective to your decision making?
If you think, again, if it's just a bit of swelling that's coming up, and if it's just the soft tissue that's swelling, then you'd let it go on. We see that all the time. But if you believe it's the bone that's gone, no, it's your eyes. Fighters carry on with broken hands. That's a different pain threshold. That some fighters can, some fighters can't. So everybody's got a different pain threshold with certain injuries. we've seen fighters carry on with broken jaws. Fucking hell, that's just ridiculous, right? But we've seen people do that. And that, again, that's next level shit. But if you've just got a swelling that comes up, then 9 times out of 10 the fighters carry on. But if it's the bone, and if it's, especially we know what, listen, you've got to understand that once this happened with Kell Brook, and then Kell after the first fight, it became public knowledge, and the doctors had said that if he'd have carried on, the risk going blind. Once you as a coach or you as a fighter think that you've got that same damage there, you have got that in your mind. And the coach has got that in mind. If I let this kid go out, if it is that and he goes blind, fucking hell, right? Daniel Dubois, the same thing. He's gone to the doctors after and have said he made the right decision in taking a knee and checking out of the fight because he could have gone blind. I don't care if people are going to call you for pulling out of a fight. It's your life. It's your life going forward. Ultimately, you've got to protect that the best that you can. And like I said, it's great. It's great for us as fans because we want to see him go out on the shield, or we want to see him have this massive tear up and shit like that. But after their fight, we look at the next fight. You watch a massive ding dong, fucking between two fighters and taking it, both getting dropped, cut eyes, this. That fight's gone. It's an undercard fight. That fight's gone. You enjoy it while we're on, but then next fight comes on. You're not thinking about that fight anymore. They're backstage in fucking agony because they've got a broken cheekbone, the broken hands on split eyes and shit like that. You're not thinking about them. You're thinking about this fight that's on next. And if it's a bit quieter, tweeting, fucking hell, this is disappointing after the last fight, rah, rah. You're not bothered about that fight anymore. You know what I mean? And that's what happens with fighters' careers. When a fighter's career is done, it's on to the next one. So the fighters and the coaches have got to make a decision what's best for them, not what sort of shit they're going to get and what abuse they're going to get, because that can have a bad effect.
We know Billy might be out for a little while now. We're not exactly sure if it's an orbital or if it's a cheekbone. I think we'll know the next day or so. As you know, Dave, we live in this crazy world where he's going to get criticism either way.
100%, yeah.
And we know Billy has said things in the past himself to other fighters. So it's just a matter of taking what's going to come and seeing if he's able to get back in the ring in the near future.
Regardless of whether he fights again, I don't know if he's going to fight again, because is the desire going to be there? He's made shitloads of money. He's been a world champion a couple of times. He's tested himself at the top level. He's come short. What else is there left for him? In terms of taking shit, mate, if you're going to say the things that Billy Joe Saunders says, and if you're going to do the things that Billy Joe Saunders does, then when shit goes wrong, you're going to get shit. It's a fact. And is it right? Well, in an ideal world, nobody gets shit and everybody would be talking like Disney, but it's not. This is how it's going to be. But if you understand this is how it's going to be, then when you're coming out with comments to people, then you're going to get shit back. And it's part of the course. That's it. You can't. I saw somewhere where it slated somebody for, I can't remember it was, for quitting. He's going to get it back. But for me, his coach pulled him out. I'm looking from a coach's point of view. His coach pulled him out, so he didn't quit. He didn't quit. So his coach pulled him out. Now that's quite different, But the stuff that he says, the antics he gets up to, some people love it, some people don't. It's like this week, I saw him in an interview where with somebody on ESPN or something like that, and the journalist, and he said something to the journalist, and I thought, fucking hell, that's so bad. It's not my cup of tea. A lot of people laughing about it and saying, "Oh, top man." People have different opinions, but I didn't think that was cool. But ultimately, when you could do things like that, and then you're gonna get beat, you're gonna get shit. It's just anybody that's outspoken, anybody that's got some sort of personality is putting themselves out there, and they're choosing to do that. So then when it goes wrong, they have to cope with it. They have to. It's like, you know, even down to coaches and myself. You know, you go into a fight and you're confident. You're saying this, you're saying that, blah blah. And then you get beat. Everyone's like, what do you know? You said this, you said that, and you're reminded of the things that you said years on later. That's just part of it. You know, if you can't cope with it, and if you don't think you can cope with that, then you don't say things. You know, you don't have an opinion on things. You know, no matter what we say in this, on any subject in these interviews, when we give an opinion, there are people that don't agree with it, say you're talking shit, and slag you off for it. So it doesn't matter if you can't cope with that, and if you don't wish to cope with that, don't say it. Don't give an opinion.
Dave, I'll end on this. Let's go back to Canelo. Just how good is he? He's without doubt one of the greatest of our generation. He wants Caleb Plant next to get all and capture all the belts. Once he's got all the belts, there's no real test out there at 168. So do you think he can be competitive at 175? Can he be competitive?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Listen, don't get me wrong. I don't know if he wins the fights, but I want to see.
But Dave, just on that, you know, like the Bivols, the Bertabievs, Joe Smiths, they're not big light heavyweights. You know, Canelo isn't far off from them in terms of size.
No, that's what I want to see. But the power of Bertabiev is powerful, but he's also chinny. So I want to see that. You know, how he did the job he did on Kovalev was impressive, but at the same time, it wasn't a peak Kovalev. Do you know what I mean? So done fantastic, a massive win, but it wasn't a peak Kovalev. I'd like him to fight Bertabiev. Let's see. I'd like him to fight Bivol. Let's see. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting, but that's where I see him, where the wheels could come off. You know, where, you know, like you see Lomachenko and he's beating everybody in his weight divisions and nobody around him can touch him. And then it goes up a division. And then it's only a matter of time before he runs into somebody that has got the physical attributes to deal with him. And when they hit him, when he feels it and it hurts, and he feels the power, it makes him think, oh, hang on a minute. And they're elite level as well. You can give that size away against guys that aren't elite level, aren't as good. You know, you can get away with it there. But then when you're talking about the ones that have got good ring intelligence, very, very good fighters, elite level fighters, and they're naturally bigger, stronger, and punch harder than you, that's a tough ask. So, you know, I can only see him getting beat now when he goes through divisions and fights somebody that matches those things.
I know Canelo said this week he feels like he's got another 7 years left in the game. So we might be talking about beyond light heavyweight Dave in the next couple of years.
Listen, his mindset his attitude is fantastic because he's stinking rich and got everything he wants, but he doesn't just let himself go. He's working in the gym all the time to improve, and he wants to challenge himself. So in that respect, fantastic.
Dave, always a pleasure. Thank you
for
jumping on this Sunday at short notice and giving me a few minutes of your time.
Thanks, man.
Enjoy the rest of the day, my man, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Dave Coldwell, IFL TV. Thank you very much.